host, Alex Garrett.
Well, if you hear that sound, you know what that means. It's NFL season. I mean, I thought we were just talking about baseball at Memorial Day. Now we're into fall. Terminello's take, Lou Terminello. How fast did this year go that we are on NFL kickoff watch about an hour and a half away? Well, where did time go, Louie?
Alex Garrett, time flies. There is no truer cliche than time flies. And good to be back with you for the start of another NFL season tonight between the Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Could be a preview of the AFC Championship game.
Of course, last year was interesting because if I'm not mistaken, the Lions actually ran out of Arrowhead with that win. And now, look, the Ravens, they're going with Lamar Jackson. It's going to be a fun matchup. It's, of course, going to be that MVP candidate thing already between Lamar and Mahomes. But you got to think, once again, they're heavily favored to, three-peat or four-peat? What are we talking about here? How many have they won in a row? I'm losing count here.
Well, I think that, the storylines in the NFL this year, obviously, number one is going to be can the Chiefs win 3 Super Bowls in a row? And I think they can. I know this is something that a lot of people probably didn't see, but a bunch of NFL players, I don't know if it was the entire league, but it was a survey of NFL players counting down the top 100 players in the league. And they had Tyreek Hill as number 1. And they had Lamar Jackson as number 2. And they had Patrick Mahomes, who I would have picked number 1 without even blinking an eye, at number 4. So I can tell you one thing. The Chiefs aren't going to be complacent, and Patrick Mahomes is not going to be complacent. Don't think he doesn't know that. And not only tonight won't he be fired up, but he'll be fired up for the whole season. I mean, the Chiefs are still, in my estimation, they're the favorite team. I think they have a great chance to get to the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight year and win it. Now, of course, anything can happen in the NFL more than any other league. A crazy bounce of a football, an injury. And if Mahomes gets injured, the Chiefs are done. So we'll see. But Baltimore is very good. They're always very good. They lost 3 guys on their offensive line. So that should be something that we look at. But tonight's an interesting game, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, that AFC West is a little more reformed because they have Jim Harbaugh out there with the Chargers. You've got a Raiders team, I think, that actually locked in with Antonio Pierce to be their head coach. I mean, you've got a lot of changes out there in the AFC West. I think it does make it more competitive. I think, and I know Zach Wilson struggled here, but the Broncos also trying to level up. I don't know where they're going to land.
Zach Wilson is the 3rd string quarterback. Bo Nix had a great preseason. They drafted him number 1 overall. He's going to be starting. And I think that's the second storyline in the NFL coming up. There's going to be 3 starting quarterbacks who were drafted in the 1st round that are going to start in week 1. Bo Nix with Denver, Caleb Williams with Chicago, who I think are going to be very interesting to watch, and Jaden Daniels with the Commanders. The last time this many quarterbacks started in week 1 that were 5 rookie quarterbacks in 2012, Ryan Tannehill with Tennessee, Andrew Luck of Indianapolis, Russell Wilson with Seattle, and he was drafted in the 3rd round, and he still started week 1. And if you remember, Seattle had signed Matt Flynn, who was Rodgers' backup in Green Bay, to a long-term contract at big numbers. Then Robert Griffin III also started in 2012, and he won the Rookie of the Year. He actually beat out Andrew Luck and the little-known Brandon Wheaton, who started for the Cleveland Browns, who played at Oklahoma State and was like 26, 27 years old when he graduated. So it's going to be interesting to look at these rookie quarterbacks. So That's something that we may not remember, but 5 rookie quarterbacks started in 2012, and 3 going to start on Sunday. So that's something to keep.
And actually, Caleb, I mean, he looks good in practice and in these preseason games. And the Bears, yeah, I think because of the fact that the Vikings QB situation with the JJ McCarthy injury, it's a little shaky right now. And of course, they let Kirk Cousins go and all that. But the Bears look like a favorite, and I feel like it's been ages since I ever said that.
I think that might be a little strong, in my opinion. I think they're going to be very good. I think they're going to be very watchable. Can they contend for a playoff spot? Yeah, maybe. I would say they might. But I think Minnesota, they're well coached. And Sam Darnold isn't great. He isn't bad, middle of the road. But the Minnesota coach, Kevin O'Connell, is a pretty good quarterback coach. So we'll see what happens. I don't think the Vikings are going to be terrible. So we'll see. And they open up here in New Jersey against the Giants on Sunday, a game that is very winnable for the Giants if they're looking to get off to a fast start. But it's a very, very interesting NFL season. And Alex, the new kickoff rules are going to be something that probably a lot of people don't realize until they watch the NFL games this weekend. I don't know how many people watch preseason games because nothing is worse than the NFL preseason. But these new kickoff rules are trying to increase the number of kickoff returns because last year was an all-time low at just under 22%. In the Super Bowl, there was 13 kickoffs, all touchbacks. So what they're going to do is the ball is going to be kicked off like it did last year from the 35-yard line. And there'll be 10 players from the kicking team that's going to be lined up at the 40-yard line. Not their 40, Alex, on the opposition's 40. And the receiving team is going to have 9 players on the 30-yard line. So they're only going to be 5 yards apart. And then they'll have the two receivers back. And if you kick it through the end zone, it's brought back to the 30-yard line, not the 25 as in the pass. If you don't,
that's a big one because I always thought these guys were getting away with murder, just kicking it into the end zone, no repercussions. So now you're forcing these guys to kick it before the end zone. That's kind of a big deal, though.
It is a big deal. There is something they call the landing zone. It's from the goal line to the 20-yard line. If when a kicker kicks off, if he's short of the landing zone, and say if it bounces short of the landing zone, not even out of bounds, even if it's in play, the receiving team gets the ball at the 40-yard line. So it's going to be crazy. So it has to hit. You got to hit the 20, and if it goes through the end zone, like I said, it's brought back to the 30, but you can't down it. You have to down it. You can't just let the ball roll through around the end zone like last year. If it hit the end zone, they automatically blew it dead because they were trying to save guys from being injured. So it has to be returned. If you don't pick it up and it's in the end zone, if the receiving team doesn't pick it up, but the kicking team picks it up, that's a touchdown. So,
we're going to have to see, as they say, see how it all shakes out on the field, because what you're talking about, I think we have to see it to know exactly what we're saying. But I think you've done a damn good job, and I'd love to see Tom Brady in his first booth appearance try to analyze that. Louie, how about that for your
again, yeah. Well, Brady's going to be able to understand the rule, but again, you're either going to get it at the 20, the 30, or the 40-yard line, depending on what happens. But if
this was more about entertainment, not the safety side, right? Or was it a mix of both?
it was more about entertainment. That's really what it was.
Because,
Again,
I mean, look, we've seen time and time again the last few years, no return, the kicker freely just kicking in the end zone. And quite frankly, if you're hitting it through the uprights, they should really be flagged for that. I'm sorry. I'm glad there's some repercussions.
Yeah, well, again, they're looking to put the kickoff back into the game. And again, just recapping, touchbacks in the end zone will start 5 yards further upfield. If the ball lands within the landing zone and becomes a touchback, it's the 20. If it fails to be short, if it fails to get to the 20-yard line, which, my God, a kicker will have to just totally miskick it, it's the 40-yard line. And so it's
I can't wait to see a windy day in either Buffalo, Green Bay, or Chicago, and that happening. That'll be interesting.
Well, I'm glad you bring up a windy day in Buffalo or Green Bay or Chicago, because the NFL is going to have a 12th player. No, not a 12th player like the Canadian Football League has for every play, but if you have to hold it for the kicker to kick off like we've seen in the past, he will hold it. And when a kicker kicks it, he will tear to the sidelines. He can't be involved in the play. He can't be one of the guys making the tackle. So the 12th man on a windy day is there just to hold the ball so the kicker can kick it off.
Well, you're saying they used to hold the ball and make the play as well, or be involved in the play?
No, there was only 11 players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, instead of deducing an extra guy to hold it, they're adding this. I get what you're saying now.
Yeah,
because
there's going to be a 12th player to hold it for the kicker, like we've seen on windy days.
Oh my God, Lou, that's a perfect opportunity for a fan to do that. Just bring him from the crowd to do that for literal 12th man, try to get
on the field and do that. Now, there's a big change with onside kicks, in my opinion. You can only onside kick if you're trailing, and it can only be done in the fourth quarter. And you have to alert the officials so they know that it's coming. And it's only in the fourth quarter. So let's go back to Super Bowl 44, halftime, Indianapolis 10, New Orleans 6. Thomas Morstead, who is now the Jets punter and has had a great NFL kicking career, kicked off to start the second half for New Orleans. They onside kicked it. They recovered the onside kick. They caught
the most famous onside kick in history of the NFL.
Well, if this rule stays, and remember, these rule changes are only for 1 year. So if they don't like what they see, they can change these rules again. But that is probably the most famous onside kick, especially
because Sean Payton had a lot of guts to do that, and it turned out to be a turning point for the whole game. I think Breeze got back on track after that. It was very, very
well. Just think, if the Colts recovered and they had the ball there in midfield, you're giving Peyton Manning and a high-powered Colt offense half a field. They're already up 10-6. If they go ahead 17-6, maybe that's the game.
Lou, tell us about the other changes. I mean, I know we were dealing with offensive, defensive pass interference flags. That was a couple of years ago, but I understand that a lot more plays can be reviewed as well this year. Is that correct?
Well, as far as reviews, there's going to be an additional review for each team. So if you missed on your review, say tonight Baltimore challenges right away in the first quarter and it's not overturned, but they review. Baltimore wants a review in the second quarter for a play. They get a third. So you can go one for two, and you can get a third, which in the past you only got two. So that's a big change. That third, and I like it. That third review for each team, that's possible. Of course, in the last 2 minutes in overtime, it will be a booth review. So that's a big change.
Did I miss something? I felt like a couple of years in a row here we've been complaining about whether pass interference should be reviewed. And then I thought unnecessary roughness was also involved with this, right? Isn't that reviewable now?
Well, pass interference was for 1 year, but as far as roughing the passer, I think they talked about it, but I'm not. I don't think it passed.
Oh, because I know that was one of the big things everybody was talking about at the end of last year. These things have to change because a guy could be literally laying on the ground from one low push, and that was roughing the passer. Anyway,
what the thing with roughing the passer, it's not going to be the classic roughing the passer. I think it's more about when a quarterback is hit going to the sideline, and I'm sure on the game tonight they'll talk about that. But I don't think it's the classic roughing the passer of the player in the pocket and getting hit late. So that's it. And they're also going to penalize now what they call the hip tackle. The hip tackle when a defensive player pulls an offensive player down, either a running back, a receiver, or a quarterback, where the offensive player's legs get pinned under the defensive player, and the defensive player falls on top of them, like from behind or on the side. That will now be a penalty. So that, I mean,
with all these changes, who's going to benefit? Which team do you think could really benefit from all this, or is it a level playing field when it comes to that?
No, I think it's a level playing field. I mean, I really don't see any team gaining an advantage with these new rules.
Lou, I gotta say that there's a lot of hype about tonight, about the Sao Paulo game tomorrow between Green Bay and Philadelphia. But I kind of like it that the Giants are more localized. Like they're having a big fan fest tomorrow. But if you're outside the country, you would have no idea because the Giants in their 100th season of football are flying under the radar, and God bless them. I think that works for actually. I feel like they're very under the radar so far to start the season.
I would agree with that. I would agree that they're under the radar. Now they are going to Berlin to play the Carolina Panthers.
True, but the media hype is not on them, which I think it benefits them a little bit.
Oh, without question. And I mean, I think the Giants will be okay. They have a very workable schedule. It's not horrible. I don't think they could squeeze into that last playoff spot, but who knows? But I don't think they're going to be in the race for number one in next year's NFL draft either. I think they'll be between 7 and, if everything goes right for them, 9 wins. If everything goes wrong for them, 5 wins. But they added John Runyon, they added Greg Van Routen to their offensive line.
And then this unretiring for Malik Neighbors, a lot of people are feeling ruffled by it. I mean, Ray Flaherty. See, you're the history guy. You would know more about him than
they asked the Flaherty family. John Mara asked the Flaherty family. They were good with it. I don't think it's that big a deal, especially since if the Flaherty family put the kibosh on it, they would pick another number. Malik Neighbors is going to be a star.
I think so.
Yeah,
and if he stays healthy, I think he had some injury, a little injury thing in the off season, right? But he's
they were just being precautious with him in the preseason. He should be good. He gives Daniel Jones a target to find. Again, this is it for Daniel Jones. I mean, we'll see what happens because the Giants can get out of the contract, I believe, at the end of next year. They can get out of the contract. I'm almost sure of it without – I mean, there'll be some cap repercussions, but they can move on from him. But again –
Lou, did what you see in the offseason and the preseason games steer you away from what you were thinking toward the end of last year, which is Dable needs to do something this year, or it's it for him, or do you feel like that's still the case here?
No, I think that a lot of coaches are on the both New York coaches, Saleh more so than Dable, are definitely. Saleh's on a hot seat. Dable's on a potentially warm seat. Let's put it that way. Because remember, Bill Belichick is out there, and I know we talked about this on the podcast earlier. He is very close to the Maras. He was a defensive coordinator on those 2 Super Bowl winning teams. I have a feeling, even though he's going to be pushing 74, he's going to want to coach again. I think it could be with the Giants. I think it could be with Dallas and I think Dallas is going to take a step back. They won 12 games each of the last 3 years, which is fantastic, but they crapped out in the playoffs. I don't think they're winning 12 games this year. They have a weak running game. I just don't like the vibe. And they're going to put the blame on Dak, but that's such nonsense. Dak Prescott's a very good quarterback. The Dallas issues are so different than just about any other team.
It's that the McCarthy system's not working for them. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, but again, any team would like to win 12 regular season games like McCarthy has done in multiple years.
Sure.
But if they don't go far into the playoffs this year, Belichick might be a candidate for a coaching job in Dallas. And don't say that he won't go to Dallas because Jerry Jones sticks his finger in the pie. McCarthy went. Now, McCarthy's not on the level of Belichick. Parcells went after he left the Jets and got healthy. He went and he was there 4 years. So it's going to be interesting to see. McCarthy's definitely on the hot seat. Saleh's definitely on the hot seat.
Sirianni down the pike is also on the hot seat. No
absolutely. Nick Sirianni's on the hot seat. I would say the 2 hottest seats are Sirianni and Saleh.
All right, Lou, I got to ask you this because while we're on it, obviously the Jets actually open up against the team I'm about to talk about. But with Brandon Ayuk, I felt like I was seeing Judgian tactics where he used the Steelers to get the Niners in line. Would you agree with that? It felt like I was watching the Judge free agency, the way he was fiddling around a little bit with both the Yankees and the Giants. Ayuk was doing the same with both of these Niners and Steelers teams.
Well, Ayuk was smart. He didn't want to go through the grind of training camp. I know they talked about a trade with the Steelers. They talked about a trade with the Patriots. Brandon Ayuk did not want to go to either one of those teams. That's for sure. The best offensive system, the best offensive coach in the league, Kyle Shanahan. Brandon Ayuk knows what's going on, and he knows the best way for him to pile up those stats on a stacked 49ers team is to rejoin the 49ers, which he did. And he got he got the same money that they offered him 6 weeks earlier. So a lot of these guys don't want to come to camp. And the 49ers are better with Brandon Ayuk in the burgundy and gold than if he was playing for the Steelers or the Patriots. The 49ers
they had quite a run
team in the NFC.
They had quite a run last year in that, rematch against the Chiefs. What differences should they make to actually win the big game this year if they're going to?
Obviously,
they ran to the Chiefs. That was the other answer, right?
Yeah. Again, they lost 2 close games to the Chiefs. They lost in overtime to the Chiefs. It's a play or two there. There's not much you can do in a situation like that. When they lost to the Chiefs a couple of years ago, on 3rd and 15, up 10, Richard Sherman, who tells everybody he's the greatest cornerback to ever play in the NFL, gave up a catch on 3rd and 15. Chiefs score. And then Jimmy Garoppolo misses a touchdown pass, but it was not an easy touchdown pass. So, if one of those things go their way, so it's different. These games are so close. And that's going to be the toughest thing for the Chiefs as they try to three-peat. Things have gone their way. Stephon Diggs not catching that ball.
Don't remind me. Josh Allen throwing 3 times, or actually 4, I think, in that final drive. I still don't understand the play call on that, but I know you like Allen and you're defending him on that, but he threw 3 times and the one to Diggs was at his feet. It's just
Diggs should have caught that ball. And they missed a short field goal. And And remember, the play's coming from the sideline, so it's not like.
And where did they miss it? I think they missed it wide right again.
They did. They missed it wide right, and it was a short field goal, not like the one in 1990, which was a long field goal.
But actually, now that you mention this, the Bills Mafia, the whole fan base, donated to the kicker because they felt bad for him. Do you remember that story?
I do.
So that was, they're not a-holes up there. They have a heart. I'll put it that way.
Well, they're tough fans. They're tough fans. But then they want to win. They've gone through a lot of heartache over the last 30 years.
And they're another team that thinks, well, I've got this prime quarterback, and we're going to see this again this year. Prime quarterbacks falling short. I think, for Herbert, for Allen, for those that are just missing the mark.
Well, only one could win. That's the thing. Only one can win each year.
But you start to see these prime quarterbacks really maybe feel the pressure a little more, right?
Sure, of course. I mean, Lamar Jackson has had terrible postseasons, terrible, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on them.
Joe Burrow. I mean, a lot of these other guys too. Now, let me ask you about
Burrow
this.
Came within 90 seconds of winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yep. Let me ask you about the AFC North, because I was a little shocked this week that they were sticking with Russell Wilson, who did not have a good year at all last year with Denver, but they're giving him a shot over Fields. What do you think they saw in Russell? Is it the veteran leadership that Fields doesn't have yet? I mean, why him to be the number one for these guys?
The Pittsburgh Steelers are probably as good an organization, along with the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL. Mike Tomlin's as good a coach as there is in the league. He knows his team. I don't know if Russell Wilson's going to be the quarterback the entire season, but he probably did the right thing by starting off with him because, like what you said, veteran leadership. But it looks like physically Russell Wilson can't do it anymore. I'm sure, and I have a feeling Fields will be in there by midseason. I don't know when their bye is. Sometimes if their bye is in the middle of the season, sometimes a change is made there. The only thing is you can never underestimate the Steelers. When you think they're done, they're not. No matter who the quarterback is, whether it's Pickett or Mason Rudolph, they find a way to win games. They lose key players in key positions, and they never crater. So I have a feeling Russell Wilson's there just for a short time. I don't think he's.
Well, they're already saying, Fields is ready in case this calf for Wilson is not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was on the injury report today.
Is not healed. So that's breaking news as we're talking. Hey, another guy in that. The other guy in this formula is Mike Tomlin, and I know I voiced my frustration to you. How do they keep him as coach sometimes? But
he's a great coach, Alex. He's a great coach. He makes chicken salad out of chicken feathers. He really does.
And so he's not on the hot seat, you don't think?
No, he is not. If he's on the hot seat, he'll be on the hot seat for 15 minutes, and then some other NFL team will hire him.
So where is it? Just because the AFC North become more competitive? Is that why they have been?
It's the best division in the NFL by far.
I think they all had a winning record for the first time since 1935.
You are correct.
I know I might talk politics and all this other stuff, but I know my sports a little bit here, Louis. That's why
you know your sports a lot, Alex Garrett. You know your sports.
Well, and the other division I feel like we haven't covered yet. We've covered the AFC East a little bit. We've covered the NFC East, the NFC North, NFC West.
It's the 49ers and Rams. The 49ers should win a division. I think the Rams are going to make the playoffs. The deeper, more quality teams are in the AFC this year. But San Francisco, Philadelphia, Detroit, the Rams should make the playoffs. And then you got.
Hold on, let me re-ask that because I want to phrase it a little differently. All right, so we've covered all that, but the other big game coming up is Sunday night. Goff versus Stafford in Detroit. Oh my goodness. They, for the primetime games, I think they scheduled well this first week.
They sure did. I can't quibble with any of the games that they're putting on in prime time, and the NFL knows how to do it. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the number is tonight on how many people will be watching tonight. And
what are you looking for Aaron Rodgers in his primetime restart? I mean, obviously the 4 snaps, the dramatic win on 9/11, and now they're on the coast to start out in San Francisco. But I feel like there's a lot riding on the first 4 snaps because of what happened. I don't know. I feel like those are going to be microscope next week.
Well, every snap he takes will be under a microscope because with no quarterback, and this is not only with Aaron Rodgers, but with any team, this is a quarterback league, and you don't have a quarterback, you're done. The Jets are loaded. The Jets roster is loaded. If the sports gods finally smile on the New York Jets, they can be playing well into the playoff season next year. They can be, and hopefully they will be playing, when is it, February 9th, February 7th this year, the Super Bowl down in New Orleans. The Jets are that good. But the pressure's on Saleh. The pressure's on Nathaniel Hackett. Less pressure because he has a real quarterback. I mean, the Jets won 7 games each of the last 2 years with no quarterback. No quarterback. Garrett
sounds
Wilson,
like they have to get creative, and I gotta say, getting creative is not the only coach that needs to be doing that. Apparently now the Yanks want to get creative with Holmes. I want to switch gears while I have you here for a minute. Creativity runs throughout our whole New York sports. I feel like we've heard this over and over, Louis. What creativity could the Yankees do that, an NFL head coach could maybe do as well as manager? I mean, trying to get creative. I've heard that term a lot this week already.
Well, I mean, if we want to jump to baseball, talk about baseball right now, do you realize the Yankees are 40-42 in their last 82 games?
And do you realize Judge's hitting percentage is being on Paw Patrol has deeply dropped, so it's like a Paw Patrol curse on Aaron Judge. I don't know, and the fact they aren't beating losing teams is worrisome. But 3 straight series losses. This is where the pendulum starts turning because now Baltimore looks like they're not going to slow down. Am I right?
Well, again, you can look at it either way. The Yankees are lucky that the Orioles have 5 starting pitchers injured and have lost games, or it could be the other way. The Orioles are lucky that the Yankees have suddenly started losing to teams that they're better than. And so I don't know where this is going to end up. But like we said in the past, you still want to finish first. You don't want to play in that 2 out of 3 crapshoot in the first round. I mean, I still think the Yankees might get there. I think they'll get finish first.
Of all 3 teams, they're still the strongest, despite the weaknesses. They're still the strongest of the Orioles and Guardians, and the Astros are a little far away from that top 3. So I would say they're the strongest of all of them right now, even despite their flaws.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Stroman is Stroman, as you know. He's just he got tattooed last night. The Yankees pitching is like everybody else's. Maybe you don't need pitching. The best starting pitching staff in the American League are the Seattle Mariners, and they're not going to make the playoffs because they can't score. I mean, the Yankees are still one of the highest scoring teams in the league. So are the Orioles. Maybe they ride the bats this year. It's a very weird year, as we've been saying all year round. Teams streak, they slump. They streak, they slump. And maybe that's going to carry right through the end of October. So I don't know. But the one thing I like, the Yankees' attention to detail, and we've talked about this off air, isn't great. And last night, I guess, and I didn't see the game, but I guess Alex Verdugo didn't hustle. And they questioned Aaron Boone in the postgame press conference. And Boone defended his player, like I guess he should, especially now in these crunch times of the last month of the season.
But then the whole question was, well, then why did you bench Glaber when he wasn't hustling? So that was the whole big
right.
comparison.
But again, he benched Glaber after multiple offenses of non-hustle.
That's true. That's true.
But again, that's been a Yankee thing a lot over the last couple of years. So I don't know, Alex. I don't know if that's something that when you get to these clutch games, when you're not buttoned up during the regular season, can you become buttoned up during
the postseason?
Playoffs?
That's a very valid point. By the way, the other difference between both teams here with the Mets and Yankees, is I think the Mets bring out the same lineup almost every night. He's not changing much. But Boone comes in and it's like, he's Frankensteining the lineup every night. Just leave it be. Let it be one thing and see if it gels.
Alex, it's not only Boone. It's what he gets from the analytic team. How he sets his lineup. And believe me, that goes throughout Major League Baseball. This is not like the old days. This is not like Casey Stengel writing out the lineup card, or Gil Hodges writing out the lineup card, or Earl Weaver writing out the lineup card on his own. Believe me, it's a conglomeration of guys feeding stats, putting guys in certain spots. It's
Billy Bean on Billy Ball on steroids, kind of, right? So.
Right. Well, and Billy Ball worked. They never won a championship, but they were always good with a small payroll. But you're right; it's on steroids. So it's not only on Aaron Boone. Again, this is his 7th year. I don't think he's going anywhere.
But I've been listening. I did listen to a lot of talk radio, and they're all saying there's no way he can go back to Holmes. There is a way. They might just keep doing it. They might just keep trotting out different lineups because they think it's going to work, and yet it makes them look a little tone deaf. And I love the Yanks. I have a connection with the Yankees organization, but it does make them look a bit tone deaf when they're not listening to the fans.
Well, you listen to the fans, you become a fan. So they're not going to listen to the fans. That's for sure.
Here's the hot button issue for baseball this week, especially. Can Lindor top Ohtani in MVP? Does the milestones really trump what Lindor is doing on a Mets team, which they need him at the top of the lineup? Not to say they don't need Ohtani at the top of that Dodger lineup, and what he's doing is not incredible. It is. But when I think of MVP, I think of a guy who's being able to be out there for his team every night and do everything that needs to be done. And Lindor's doing that a little more than Ohtani, because as you pointed out off air, look at the defensive side of things too for Lindor that he's doing for this team.
Alex, hey, Ohtani's a great offensive player. That's what he is. He's a great offensive player. He hasn't played one out in the field. Ohtani's going to win because Ohtani his brand is so well known, and these writers are going to vote for him. But there's nobody who has turned the Mets season around more than when they put Lindor in the leadoff spot. The Mets have played 22 games over 500 since June 2nd, the best record in Major League Baseball since June 2nd. And they may not make the playoffs, and I still think they're going to fall short, even though they're only a half a game out. But in Lindor's case, not only what he's done offensively, not only is he a brilliant fielding shortstop, he's out there for 145, 150 pitches per game. He has to concentrate on every pitch. He has to make sure that every pitch, one pitch could change a game if he's in the wrong position defensively. I don't know how the guy didn't win the Golden Glove for shortstop last year. They gave it to Swanson. I don't know how they didn't give it to Lindor, who was brilliant last year. And the thing about Lindor, even if he goes into batting slump, it doesn't affect his fielding. He's a great base runner. And, I was one of the biggest Lindor bashers, especially
when they signed him without even hitting a pitch for the Mets. That was really questionable, but he's earning the money now. That's for sure.
And he is the Mets' best player by far. To me, he's the most valuable player in the National League, but he's not going to win it.
And you know who was thankful for him? I think Pete Alonso was thankful for that Lindor's producing because it's taking a lot of heat off him. And Alonso's not had the best walk year. I have to say that.
Alex, if you watch Alonso, and again, he's got 31 home runs, but you could see it. We've said this in the past. You could read the guy's body language. The guy wears his heart on his sleeve. He's feeling the pressure, not feeling the pressure of a playoff race. He's feeling the pressure of his performance because he's going to be a Scott Boras free agent. And it's going to be a very interesting free agency for Pete Alonso. I have no idea if he's going to be back with the Mets or not. I really don't. I really don't. But yes, Alex, he feels the self-induced pressure. You could see it. You don't even have to be an expert at body language. You can see it. And like I said, he still has 71 home runs and 80 RBIs.
Yeah, no, it's a mixed bag, and the other guy who was at Fanatics was, by the way, Jeff McNeil, another name. Him and Nimmo, you want them to produce more.
Well,
they've not been themselves this year a little bit.
Well, since the All-Star break, Nimmo, who was on his way, it looked like to be a 100 RBI guy, hasn't hit a lick. And I don't think he puts a lot of pressure on himself. But as I said to you earlier in the year, now McNeil had a good 3 or 4 weeks. Jeff McNeil is almost done. I don't know if the Mets are going to package him in a trade, as an extra. I think he has 3 years left on his contract. He's not done like LeMayo's done. LeMayo is done. He's finished. He's done. But McNeil is close to done. I can't see. Maybe the Mets will keep him because he's still under contract. He has a $12 million a year contract.
Sure,
it's not crazy as some of these others, and maybe he'll become the Mets utility guy because he can play second, third, and can play right or left. Who knows? But he's not the same guy, and so we'll see what happens. But
by the way, the Mets pitching has really turned around. I remember when we were in the second game of the season against the Brewers, and Sevy looked awful, but now he looks like one of the best pitchers in the majors. In fact, he is. Since June, he's had the best ERA. I mean, you talk about the turnaround, you talk about the patience I'm sure they've had with him.
Well, let me say one thing. I said earlier in the year, and I said it on one of the early podcasts, I thought that was a bad signing. I thought he was done. He hasn't pitched as well as Sean Manaea, but he's been good. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they signed him for 1 year, $13 million. He's going to get more money from the Mets or somebody else because pitching is at such a premium. Because not only can't you find them, guys are getting hurt left and right. I mean, we talked about the Orioles. Look at Spencer Strider with the Braves. Kyle Wright. I mean, we can go right down the line. We go on every team, so we're not going to waste time doing that. Sean Manaea, 1 year.
You can hear Luz talk about that on another Terminello take, which we did a while back on these injuries that are just plaguing and whatnot. We talk about Boone, so we got to fairly talk about Carlos Mendoza. The guy has managed the best he can. I think he's done a hell of a job to get them where they are right now. You look at all the adversity they faced early on, the media 0-5, oh my goodness, and yet here they are, half a game behind the break. I mean, what an adversity, a leader through adversity Carlos Mendoza's become here.
Well, he's very calm. You're right. There's overreaction, and we're going to see so much overreaction on Monday and Tuesday after this NFL weekend. Overreaction positively and negatively. But Mendoza's done a great job. he handles the press well. I watch him a lot of his press conferences, and he gives deep, thought-provoking answers to everything that what he does. He can back it up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, really, there's only one or two times this year when I'm watching the game can I question what he does, especially when he's handled a bullpen that has been completely turned over from the beginning of the season. And he's done a great job with that. Really, I really have no qualms with him so far, and I think he'll get better, as he gains experience. I really maybe one or two games where I could say, why did he do that? But over a course of a 6-month, 162-game season, that's not much. So he's done a good job, and he's kept the Mets calm. And I've been critical of David Stearns. The Mets are competitive even if they don't make the playoffs, which I hope they do. But they got 7 games left with Philly, and Philly
and Atlanta. They also have Atlanta on the schedule.
They have 3 with Atlanta, and they have the last 3 with Milwaukee. So it's going to be very, very tough.
By the way, we're doing this on a Mets off day, and it's funny. The Yanks need the off day. The Mets, you don't want the off day with a 7-game win streak, so you got to stay motivated tomorrow and through the weekend here.
You are 100% right, because I think what put Nimmo and JD Martinez has hit, but not like he's hit before the All-Star break for those 2 months when the Mets got really hot. That 4-day All-Star break slowed the Mets down, I believe. So you're right. You don't want a day off, but again, the bullpen can use a day off. And they have a Cincinnati team coming in that can hit. They have a Cincinnati team that has a lot of young players, a Cincinnati team that has underachieved. Those are scary teams. I think David Bell might lose his job at the end of the year as manager, because the Reds have a lot of talent. So they're coming in this week, and the Mets have to go in with the mindset to win 2 out of 3. And then they go up to Toronto, which has been, I think, the biggest disappointment in the major leagues this year. They got to win 2 out of 3 up there. Toronto.
That's the story. I mean, they have the talent. They just haven't had, it all comes together.
It's really, they've been out of it since day one.
Lou, while we're on this, let me ask you the most controversial question, I think, facing the 2024 Chicago White Sox and the 1962 New York Mets. Do you want the White Sox to surpass the New York Mets 1962 record, or do you still want that 1962 team to be the worst ever? Because then you could say, well, look what we rebounded from in 1969. There's a lot of viewpoints on this.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I was listening to Howie Rose as I was driving around the other day during the Mets game, and
I wonder where I got the idea from to ask you.
And he said, as a lifelong Mets fan, he wants the Mets to have that record because they were an expansion team, and 7 years later they were able to become the first expansion team ever to win the World Series, and how they built up their farm system so quickly. Okay. No, I want to see the White Sox lose 121 games. I do. And I feel bad for the White Sox. I mean, the team is absolutely pathetic because the Mets were an expansion team. And Alex, if you look back, if you ever want to Google like how the Mets pick players from the expansion pool, I think it was a pool of 15 players. Nowadays, when the expansion teams came in, like Arizona and Tampa Bay, they picked from both leagues. There was free agency. Arizona won 101 games their second year. They, in their fourth year, played in the World Series because they were able to sign as free agents, Randy Johnson and Schilling, and they got Matt
Luis
Williams.
Gonzalez,
So the Mets couldn't
Tony
do
Womack.
that. The Mets had no farm system when they started in '62. It was a true expansion team. And Alex, this is before your time. Those expansion teams were truly expansion teams. They were going to be bad for 5-6 years. So I just can't believe in 2014 the Chicago White Sox, who a couple of years ago were in the playoffs, are this pathetic. I was
2024,
shocked.
yeah, no,
Yeah. I was shocked. I mean, it's shocking to me that is bad, and they are as bad as their record, as far as their record shows.
Oh my God, the game of the night against the Orioles, where they're bumping into each other, and everybody's
they're terrible.
even Kevin Brown of the Orioles network saying the White Sox have gone full White Sox. I mean,
right. I mean, that was a little tough, but I heard him say that.
That's pretty awful, and you just wonder when you start the season and you don't see this coming, how you rise above it. The White Sox haven't. They even fired their manager in late August, okay? And they still didn't, or early August, they still didn't bounce back from that. So that's,
I mean,
it really could be an ownership level thing. I mean, a lot of people want Einzort to sell the team already. I don't know if that's the answer, but.
Well, I mean, he wants to build a new stadium, and this is not going to happen because I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but the way the White Sox are playing, that certainly doesn't, say, hey, let's build that stadium tomorrow. They'll probably get the stadium built. I could say one thing. When I watch them play, they play hard. They do play hard. And Sizemore coaches and manages the game like they're in the playoffs, like they're in a playoff situation.
He was a great player with the
he was outstanding.
He was a great player. I'm just thinking about this because you're a sales guy, right? You were a former salesman here with 970 where we first met. How do the sales teams of these teams that are really, they don't even look competitive heading into next year, tell an advertiser, hey, stay with us, we're going to get better? It's almost an impossible job, isn't it?
It is an impossible job, and this is what you got to do. I was with the Nets during 5 of their worst years. After my first 5 years with the Nets, we were pretty good. Won the 49 games, 48 games, beat the Sixers when they were the world champions in the playoffs. And then after the Michael Ray Richardson situation where he was expelled for life, that was step one into the team falling apart. And we were terrible for the next five years, between 17 and 26, 27 wins. So what I did was we started selling the opposition. That's what I did. And I sold myself. I would say, hey, I can't promise you what's going to happen on the court is going to be good. But any deal that we make as a corporate sponsor, I'll make sure that everything that you get in your deal is fulfilled. And you sell yourself. And then we got better. We got better in the 90s with Kenny Anderson, Derek Holman, and Drazen Petrovic. And then we had the Drazen death, which set back the team 5 years. And then we made the trade for Kidd, drafted Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson, Keith Van Horn. And, we won 4 divisions in 6 years. We won 9 playoff series. And yes, it's easier to sell when the product helps you out, but that's how you got to do it. And
I mean, this team had 17 fans in attendance about a week. 17.
Well, there was one game, first game of a doubleheader, where they said there was under 50 fans in the stadium, like in the 3rd inning.
So that looks really bad to an advertiser. So let's just say I send this over to the Chicago sales team. What's your message for the White Sox sales guys right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, they just got to put blinders on, and that's what I did. I mean, you can't, the team is bad, and you got to keep talking to your sponsor. Don't run away from your sponsor.
I was going to say, this also deals with legacy sponsors. I'm sure the White Sox have accrued so many legacy sponsors that wouldn't just disappear on them, would they?
No, they'll stick with them. Some will leave because of budget reasons, stuff like that. But yes, it hurts business. And then let's face it, I was a better salesperson when the team was good. But the most important thing is the product on the court, on the ice, on the field, on the baseball diamond. That's the most important thing. And anybody else who tells you, oh, well, our operating cost, we lost $5 million. Well, okay, then cut the budget. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to lose money because To make money, you got to spend money. And all these pro sports teams are now worth so much money. I mean, it's astronomical. And
It is. I wish I'd just name it back to Comiskey Stadium. It's a lot more easier to pronounce, but that's another story for another day. Lou, I know you wanted to talk about before we go this date in history. You want to take us back in time a little bit?
Well, today was one of the darkest days since I've been watching sports. In 1972, on this day, was the day when Black September, the Arab terrorist group, rushed Olympic Village and killed immediately 2 Israeli Olympians, abducted not the other 9, which led to almost a 24-hour, it was probably about 18-hour standoff with Black September. And eventually, at the airport in Munich, the police charged and tried to stop the hostage takeover in a plane, and because they wanted the plane, and they wanted 234 terrorists that were being held. And make a long story short, they lost them all. The other 11 Israeli athletes were killed. One West German policeman was killed. I think 4 terrorists were killed. 4 or 5 terrorists were killed. And I just remember Jim McKay we were watching at night till 2, 3 in the morning, giving us the horrible news that they were all gone. As he said, they were all gone. And eventually, Israeli military got revenge, got all the 234 terrorists were eventually wiped out, because the three Black September that the West German police caught and put in jail, 2 months later they were let go for those 234 terrorists. But the Israeli army, and I don't remember the details that well, but they got them all. They got them all, Alex, for that horrible thing that they did that day. And a lot of people said the Olympics should have been canceled, the Summer Olympics. They were for a couple of days, but Avery Brundage, who was no fan of Israel, got the games going, and they finished. That was ironically the Olympics where Mark Spitz, a Jewish American, won all those gold medals in swimming. I believe it was 7.
Yes.
That was
wow.
That was on this day in
and Brundage was IOC president at the time. Am I right on that?
Yes, he was, and he was for many, many years. For many, many years, not a good guy.
Well, we all know the IOC screws up in a lot of ways and can show that hostility toward even the Jewish athletes as well, and I think that's still resonates.
Well, since that day, Alex, since those Olympics, every Israeli Olympic team does not stay in the Olympic Village, and it's Israeli security that watches them and protects them, not Olympic security.
And imagine this year in Paris, the on alert because of what happened on October 7th. I mean, it transcends the field. It's just, it's something that shouldn't become commonplace. But after October 7th, you have to guard against that from becoming commonplace even more. I'll put it that way.
And one last update on, unless you have anything.
There is some good news. I am looking at the Paralympics, and my buddy Steve Serio and Team USA Wheelchair Basketball is on the gold medal game on Saturday against Great Britain. How about that?
That's great. I was watching a little bit of the basketball game yesterday.
Isn't that amazing the way they're able to navigate and everything like that in their wheelchairs? It's even at the CUNY adaptive level, it's amazing to watch them navigate the court like that.
Well, I was watching, and some of these guys, when they got fouled, and they go to the free throw line, they're sitting in their chair, and they're shooting those free throws like they're Stephen Curry. Nothing but cotton. Amazing to me. And then I was watching the swimming. Alex, I don't know how they do it. I mean, finishing in the top three, and some of these people have their legs cut off from just below the knee, and you need your legs to swim. Obviously, the strength of these people, physically and mentally, is beyond comprehension.
An athlete just said not too long ago, and I want to get the quote properly. We're not disabled athletes. We're athletes, period. And
Yeah,
they really are, no matter what.
That is very accurate. They are athletes. And when I was with the Nets, we had a wheelchair basketball league. It was the North American Wheelchair Basketball Association.
Yeah, and that's still around. They actually helped put together Team USA for the Paralympics.
I didn't know that, because that used to be my account.
NWBA, yes, they're still around.
And they were amazing. I mean, I'm going back 30 years, 25, 30 years. And they always put on a good show at the Meadowlands, that's for sure. One last update, UConn and the Big 12, they've taken a pause. The Big 12 is taking a pause. They announced today, I guess.
It's because they heard us, okay, Lou? They didn't want the cat out of the bag, so they had to pause. Okay?
I guess they haven't gotten the 12 votes, because Commissioner Yormark has said that we're putting on pause. But from what I hear, that Connecticut was all in, and I guess they still can't get the 12 presidents to get that supermajority to get them in. So I'm sure that they'll still be in play. I'm sure. I know Brett Yormark. I worked with him for a long time. He doesn't give up easy. So we'll see what happens there. But I also heard something, and I don't know how strong rumor this is. If the ACC figures out what their situation is, that they might go after UConn, but I don't know. But I also heard another reason why the UConn thing got saddled in mud. Fox Sports did not want UConn to leave the Big East, even though Fox Sports has the rights to the Big East. They also have the rights to the Big 12, but they said, this is just me, the way I figure it out, UConn is more important being in the Big East than being in the Big 12, because the Big 12, you have Baylor basketball, you have Kansas basketball, you're going to have Arizona basketball, BYU basketball. So we'll see what happens there as that moves forward. And
by the way, that quote, and that's great info. That quote was from Beatrice Hatz, Team USA's Beatrice Hatz, who actually is an amputee competing in track and field. So there you go. And no, it makes sense to keep UConn in the Big East. I just wish Syracuse would come back, because that rivalry was fun in the Big East. But that's another conversation for another day. Lou, as you know, it's been a big media day, so I gotta rest up an hour before now. I can't believe we're there. We're right at kickoff. It's right in front of it, as Aaron would say.
Yeah, it's an hour away. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, I'm going to launch this in a moment. This could be the pregame show for everybody to listen to. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
I'm Alex Garrett with Lou Terminello Steak. Once again, September 5th, 2024. Thanks for joining, Lou.
Thank you, Alex, as always.